Please welcome Christopher Fuss, Global Head of DHL SmartSolutions IoT. Christopher, many thanks, and over to you.
The clicker is this one, right? Perfect. Thank you. Thank you, Sam, for the introduction as well. Thanks for having me here. As I could see on the agenda, it's not the first time that you hear of DHL, and I was tempted to wear a yellow shirt this morning, but I decided security is a way more severe topic, so I took the neutral white one. And I guess you already saw a lot of yellow yesterday at the presentation of Adrian about DHL, what DHL is doing, and how temporized DHL is. So I'm not going to dive deeper into this. What I want to do with you is actually to go a little bit, to take a more generic view on the logistics industry itself. We have been hearing a lot about detailed stuff already, QR code and how they could impose a risk for the industry and operations. I would like now to take a little bit more an eagle view to see how the logistics industry might develop in the future in general. So everything that I'm talking about is to be seen on a more global scale, as we as DHL are a global company, and also the view that we are going to share is a global view. I'm part of a department that is called DHL Trend Research and Innovation, and this is basically what we do. At the first step, we try to assess different trends and how they might impact the industry, and then a second step, then implement things, test, pilot things to see how we can drive forward innovation to improve our own operations, efficiency, security in there, but also together with our major customers. Major customers of DHL here are basically the global players that you can think about. So, it's a pretty tough job, to be honest. This should be here. Okay, stepping over this, thank one. So it's a pretty tough job to make predictions. We try actually to make use of a model that we implemented to get a hand on it, because things are changing so quickly, as we have seen just over the course of the last week, that it's pretty tough to really say what will happen in the future. But how we do it actually is something where we use a tool that we call the Trend Radar that I'm gonna present soon. There are a few impact factors or input factors for the Trend Radar of DHL. Some of you might have seen it already, others not. But what are the major drivers behind? There are these 4 or 5 mega trends that are really shaping our industry that got identified there. One is global trade. I guess since last week, we need to assess or to admit that global trade actually is definitely something to look at. If we don't do, we are messed up. Even though if we are a local player, all our suppliers, second, third tier suppliers might be impacted by the global trade developments of the last month. Digitalization, e-commerce, evolving workforce, climate change. I guess this might have also been presented already yesterday by Adrian. These are the major drivers that we see that is impacting the industry. And to then assess also what impact these trends have on our own operations, for example, we also drive our research based on the opinions of our customers, of our operations, as well as our suppliers. This is important for us to be close to them, to understand actually what are the driving forces, what are the concerns, what are the issues, what are the solutions out there. And to give you an example, thanks, Björn, to raising the question about the EVs and the battery logistics. What is our stake on that? Battery logistics is definitely a topic that is brought up heavily by our automotive customers. How do we deal, for example, with broken batteries, which is not a concern today because most of our EVs are not that old yet. But what happens in 10, 20 years? How are we going to deal with damaged and old cars and the batteries inside? What will happen with these batteries, and what impact might be there on all aspects of the logistics industry? For example, for storing in warehouses. What for the transportation bit? And I can tell you, temperature is one thing. There's a phenomenon that is called the thermal runaway, which is an indication that a battery might catch fire which is a change in the composition of the gas that is around the battery. So, am I an engineer? No, I'm not. But this is something that we look into to learn and try to get an eye on and to understand better from our technology partners to understand, hey, we might need to implement pretty precise gas sensors in our warehouses to better understand that something might happen, to then go in there and, for example, take out a specific battery that might catch fire soon to avoid that something is happening. So there is an answer on the question whether temperature is relevant or not. Yes, but thermal runaway and the gas composition is even more important. And thanks for this example, because this shows quite good of what we do and how we work and what we try to assess and look into. We are using a broad ecosystem of different groups of people. It might be academia, so universities, it's our business units, it's our operations, it's our customers, and also a huge set of suppliers. It might be startups, it might be incumbents. Some of them, for example, here is also pretty insightful for me to talk with some of the exhibitors today to understand what they offer and what might be the top-notch new thing to come, to then understand how actually the future might look like. And how the future might look like is something that DHL assessed already since 2013. So we are right now in the seventh version of the DHL Trend Radar. It's over a decade of research and opinion building. You see in the animation behind me the radar itself and how different trends are placed on that and how they change also in a direction and in a position, and how to read that I go through with you now. And I do this rather quickly to also then deep dive into a few of the topics that are relevant for you here, looking most in the security topic. So, first of all, how to read it. And by the way, if the QR code, we heard about the risks of QR codes. I actually tested it, and apparently the QR code here does not work. This is not on purpose, but you can just Google it. This is all open information available for everybody, because this is kind of our philosophy here, to share this information, to get in touch with people, to discuss, to understand different opinions as well. To foster an exchange to drive and shape the future. So, how to read it? First of all, there are two dimensions. There's a left side and a right side. And before I show the full product, so to say, of the radar, I just want to tell you how to read it. As said, on the two sides, on the left side, there are more the social and business trends. I wouldn't call them softer. They are pretty tangible as well, but coming from a different origin than on the right side, which are more the technological trends. And here some of the topics are pretty kind of, technology-driven itself. You will find topics on there like connectivity, AI, robotics, and so on. But you see that there is a differentiation in two dimensions. The second dimension is actually the time span. Everything that is at the outskirt of the radar we see also as not less relevant, but less quick to develop and also to have an impact on the industry. Things might still evolve in there, but might be less relevant for the logistics industry within the next years. So the closer we come to the center, the more relevant it is from a time perspective. And then, last but not least, a third dimension. And the third dimension is actually the impact that something or a trend might have, and the impact is actually to be read from the bottom to the top. So the higher a trend is at the radar, the higher its impact is assessed by us, we see that this is kind of then more relevant for the industry. The closer it is to the center, the red dot in the middle, the closer actually it is to reality, and the more important it is, from our perspective, to watch a specific trend. So how does it look like? Skipping this one, this is what I just explained, and this is how the trend radar looks like. I'm not going through all of these trends, 40 roundabout, in detail. I would like to dive deeper into a few of them where we see that they have a huge relevance for you as well, and how to read them to make it more accessible for people from different industries, but also from different focus areas. we also integrated a few lenses or perspectives, how to read it. These perspectives are available. This is all also available for your mobile phones, tablets, whatever, where you can use a toggle, for example, to activate the different lenses. You see here different industry lenses, different focus area lenses, and one or two of them being also resilience and security, physical and digital security. So, using one of these lenses, now the resilience ones would show you which of the trends we see as relevant, and we highlight that on the radar specifically with that lens of resilience. We heard earlier this morning already about AI tools that can integrate different data, data sources, internal, external data, weather data, and so on, from our colleagues from Amazon. This is exactly what we would foresee here as well, as in a relevant trend being AI here. Another lens, the security lens, you see there is a slight overlap of different trends that are highlighted now as well. And this can happen also for different sectors, for example, that trends might have a higher impact on that specific focus topic or industry than others. So all in all, we need to say that there are two major trends that also kind of have the highest impact on the industry itself. One being sustainability, and the other being AI. Sustainability actually is a topic that is in everyone's mouth, and I think it's one of the single pictures with a yellow DHL van on it in my presentation. Sustainability is actually something that many customers bring to us. We see that also the geopolitics are not shifting it directly because business models actually all are evolving in a more sustainable way. Electrification is one piece of it, just for our own operations, with all its limitations, but also having, from a packaging perspective, for example, more sustainable solutions when it comes to aviation fuel and all that stuff. These are heavily requested topics in the industry. The second being AI, and I wanted to focus a little bit on AI today because not everything is generative AI. And I think this as a message is also important. There is a lot of magic in generative AI. It is beautiful, but it's not all. The biggest use cases, at least within DHL, that we foresee for the future is more with regards to agentic AI, where we see that we can make use of own data that we have to train our own models, independent from any large language model, for example, to improve our operations, to improve efficiency, specifically, for example, when it comes to the analysis of data and paper. Paper is still a big thing in our industry. All the paperwork that has to be done for customs and so on, and to digitalize that, to make it in a smart way, there we actually see a big lever. So, what are the sub-trends that we see within AI? A few of them are here, showcased as well. You see with a green or blue color of which origin they are from on the trend radar, with a social and business trend or more tech trend. And one thing that I find pretty important is also the social and business trend with regards to AI ethics. Why do I point this out? Just yesterday, and we had the colleague of the European Commission speaking already today, the European Union released a new AI, I don't want to call it act again, but it's more this master plan of how we want to become, at least in Europe, more competitive and more independent also from large tech players from the Americas, as an example. So, nevertheless, it is important to also look into the details there. Yeah? So how actually do we make sure that our data is secured? How can we create trustworthy AI models that actually can be trusted, for example, also of insurance players? Yeah, so that we are sure that anything that is used there relies on the right data and not wrong data. Also, the ethical use of AI. Do we use AI for the right things? Many of our, I would call them opponents or the criminals, they use and they will use AI, and it will become a race that to become this one step quicker and stay one step earlier than, for example, criminals in using AI to detect fraud and other stuff, theft and so on. I brought an example with me to show you a little bit later. When it comes to the tech side on AI, maybe interesting for you, we see big advancements in audio AI and the application of audio AI in our own operations. I can imagine that this might also come in the future for example, theft prevention or detection. But how we use audio AI today is actually, for example, to understand the safety of our drivers for the sake of the safety, for example, how they breathe and how they talk when they have a call. And now if somebody says, hey, we are in Germany or in the European Union, what about GDPR? Yes, we do this in a compliant way. But these are things, and honestly speaking, for sure, there are other regimes and other regions in the world where a few things are less restricted to deal with and to apply things. But for example, the fatigue detection of drivers can be done just in a way that we see that we could analyze how people are behaving in the driver's cabin to understand, okay, maybe we send an alert to that driver that he or she needs to take a break. Also, we use audio AI a lot in our operations, for example, sorting centers, to understand how the machines are running and developing, to go there in a more predictive way and proactive way to say, hey, there is not this maintenance run where our engineers go once in a while and check for the status of the machines, but we exactly identify in our sorting centers which cell is broken or where a small ring wheel is broken to take this out before any crash happening. And we see that this can be used in many, many other circumstances as well. When we come to one of my favorite topics, computer vision, I guess you have seen also colleagues and suppliers like Axis outside offering a huge variety of camera technology. This definitely is a big thing for the future that we see. It's not only about access control and who enters a warehouse, for example, but also what's happening within a warehouse. It's coming with a security feature, but it's also coming with a huge safety feature. What we see there is that based on computer vision, we might replace in the future a lot of the sensors and IoT devices that we have been using in the past just by using computer vision and understanding kind of with the AI algorithms behind of what's happening. There are a lot of examples of what we could do with computer vision systems. Is it about people? Yes, it could be about people tracking, but I mentioned here, for example, we are partnering with companies that are focusing on the safety feature, and while doing this, when it might be a man-down scenario, it might be just, if we talk about, for example, warehouses, because we go enter this area where we are operating in minus 20 degrees Celsius and below temperature regimes, there it's important that if anything happens and one of our workers gets injured or something happens, that this person is pulled out immediately. It could be life-threatening. It can also be in all the traffic with the forklifts, but interestingly, what we see there is also a security feature as well. Sometimes just by analyzing and setting up the right rules, you see so many security threats happening in facilities and also on trucks that we now see that using this information that anyway is available on our video management systems is worth it. And also just yesterday, a company got acquired that is called Brighter AI. They have been received they received the German KI award or AI award last year. They just have been acquired because they are dealing with the anonymization of all the footage so that we stay and can stay GDPR compliant with all that stuff. And understanding what's happening out there is important, and I think not looking into computer vision today would just be not only a missed opportunity, but it might be a threat for any organization. So when it comes to shipments, I skipped this a little bit. For sure, there are many practical reasons why to use computer vision there, and the logic that is around, for example, to make measurements of shipments, to understand fill loads of trucks, of trailers. This is less the security part, but more the operational efficiency part. And last but not least, I see a huge potential in assets and asset tracking. to understand where things are. We talked about parking lots of the future and safe parking lots. What means safe here? What is safe? Is it the fence or is it maybe the camera surveillance there? It's nice to have a camera if nothing is done actually as an actionable or if something happens on the camera footage, it's a little bit helpless. And to track assets and trailers might also be helpful in combination, for example, with what we saw with GPS earlier. We heard about GPS spoofing, but using, for example, camera information of different parking lots, we could at least build a system to say, hey, we have seen that the truck is going to Amsterdam, but now I see it here, or I expect it to be at that parking lot, but the computer vision system on that parking lot did not detect the truck, something must go wrong. And this is a little bit my, not call to action, but I do think that it's pretty important to make use of APIs in the future. And if the European Commission now fosters a program for more secure and safe parking lots, I think the next steps for any freight forwarder might be to say, okay, let's look whether we can also get information of these parking lots to combine this with our data to understand where the shipments, for example, are or trucks are where they are supposed to be. And tracking assets, but also there, via computer vision, we see some practical implications that sometimes are not foreseen, at least not at the beginning. At our hub of DHL Express in Leipzig, one of our biggest hubs of the DHL Express networks, we have been using computer vision to track ULDs. So air freight containers. And we wanted to understand where they are on the tarmac and also all the dollies and all the GSEs, so the ground support equipment. It's running perfectly. It's a perfect solution, much better than using GPS, 5G, and so on and so forth. The only issue is, as usual, not light, but fog. And this is something to consider then when I also see that innovation needs to kick in that way that we always try to combine different type of information into a real solution. And a real solution typically is a combination of different technologies. I brought one example with me that actually also we conducted at our hub in Leipzig. You might know already from a security perspective, I guess, this Boston Dynamics spot here. You might also remember the picture because it was in the press already, where we are testing and using in a completely different, actually from a completely different origin of that project, the use of this robotic dog for the perimeter security detection. So what are we doing there and why did I put a drone in there? I want to close here with a real example of innovation projects at DHL and how we do it. I mean, this is a nice example of how different technologies have to work hand in hand to create a real, actually not innovation, but a solution. Because what we tested here is actually a combination of different technologies that we see on the DHL Trend Radar. We see a kind of, autonomous vehicle, if you want to say, with a robot dog. You see actually an AGV in the background, and you see a drone, and all somehow with super low latency connected via 5G as a connectivity technology. So, and this is, I think, a great example of how the future could look like if you deploy technology, not just in silos, but think a little bit beyond and work with partners to deploy these kind of technologies. Because typically, we find better partners that are specified in one specific thing. This is a combination of at least 6 companies, for example, that are included in this tech setup, rather than doing things on our own solely. We are a logistics company. We concentrate on the logistical processes and where we are good at, but we use a high level of technology that we try to assess which are relevant for the future and then to deploy to make the service better. And we see that other players in the industry do the same. And with this, I think I would like to close. Ask Sam back on stage if there are any questions. And thank you already. Thank you.
Christopher, thank you so much. Maybe you could just grab, you've got your microphone on, you don't need to grab.
Yeah, I took off my glasses, but actually it's still foggy from here.
Yeah, it's been foggy all day. But they look great with or without your glasses,
they do.
Don't they? So we've just got a couple of questions to go through. Thank you so much for that really insightful presentation. Which of the trends that you mentioned do you see as the most critical for the security community represented at this event?
Today, I would say cybersecurity. This is a topic that is, I wouldn't call it neglected, but I guess from a security standpoint, we see that many requests are coming more for the physical part of the security, but I do see a big threat coming from the digital part as well. And this is also, on top of our CEO's mind. I don't want to say he has sleepless nights about this, but there are a lot of efforts, at least in our group, to stay resilient on that and to avoid any kind of, difficult situation.
And looking at next generation connectivity, which technology do you think is going to be the most pivotal in the future?
It's not 5G, even though the connectivity providers would say so. It's also not about the low Earth orbit satellite connectivity stuff that we see out, Starlink and so on. I guess at the end of the day, it will be the combination of things. We have heard about spoofing already. I have an example of use cases or there's a lot of jamming happening as well with regards to the GPS signals, but also to suppress the cellular connectivity. And I know that, or we make pretty good experiences, for example, in using a different set of technologies simultaneously. Also on frequencies where maybe criminals are not active or that they are not aware of yet, to at least get any signal. And sometimes if it's a really high value cargo and we want to actually track it in real time, we even use methods where we are just sending empty messages to understand that we still receive the message, and by that we could say where it is, just by knowing that in certain areas we are just operating the network ourselves. So to answer the question, the most critical one in the future will be not one, but the combination of many, being 5G one of it, but I would also always consider the low power wide area networks as critical.
And you also, in your presentation, referenced social and business trends. Which of these trends is the most discussed with customers of DHL in terms of looking at resilience?
I mentioned sustainability already, but with a focus on resilience, I guess it's the supply chain diversification itself. It got a huge push, I guess, last week, but this is in everyone's mouth as well. With all the geopolitical insecurities, where do we offshore, what is nearshore, what do we bring closer to our core manufacturing site, for example. I guess this is the most discussed ones with the customers.
And just finally, to finish, you released the last version of the Logistics Trend Radar in October 2024. Given all the developments that we've seen impact the industry since then, have you changed your view on any of the trends that impacting the industry, and what would change if you'd had to update the Logistics Trend Radar today?
Yeah, it's right. We would publish another one today, even though it's only half a year old. You saw that it was evolving over the course of the last years and things disappeared and other trends came in, but also there some we evaluated just wrong. We could not foresee, for example, the tremendous impact of generative AI. I guess I would put that even closer to the center today. There is not one day where not Meta, Google, or OpenAI, or whoever is releasing a new model with more power. I think the GPUs of OpenAI are melting after they released this video and picture creation tool now. But I would also see that anything about agentic AI and so on would be closer to the center. Robotics is a relatively robust and mature topic, which would stay where it is. But on the tech side, I guess this AI would need to be put more to the center.
Well, Christopher, it's been fantastic to have you with us. Thank you so much for sharing that. Thank you.
Thank you.